9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. In a 1993 taped confession, never before made public, Albert Einstein's assistant in the summer of 1947 made the stunning admission that she and the professor were flown to Roswell, New Mexico, under government direction and examined the debris and bodies resulting from the crash of an extraterrestrial vehicle. Joining me today is Dr. Bill. Bill, what the hell? What is this?
Hello. Hey, I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know. I think we should take a listen to the interview and let's just listen to it and talk about it.
This is craziness.
Yeah.
All right.
We should add that this was on Anthony Bragaglia's UFOs, Explorations, Original Research, and Independent Reporting. We have the recordings from his site, and he says on his site that this can be shared and disseminated. So I think
we will,
and we're doing that. So how about we just jump into the interview and we'll start talking about it. So I am in control, and if you want me to stop, just say stop, and I'll stop the recording, and I'll stop it periodically, and we'll talk about what we're listening to. You ready?
Go.
All right, it started. Takes a second.
All I recall is several people using the word Roswell, and that must be where the crash occurred then, and then they brought them to the other place. It looked like at an airport facility where there was like a rather good-sized building, a hangar, where they had the spaceship and then where they had the bodies.
Is it an intact ship?
No, it was badly damaged.
Was there anything written on the ship?
No, not anything I saw, no. Not by the time I saw it.
Can you describe what it looked like? Did you touch the...
Yeah, they didn't let me do that, but the other people were permitted to do that because they were very curious about knowing what kind of materials they were. The body of the ship was... The body of the ship was what I would call today rather a reflective material, but when you looked at it and you were close to it, it was rather dull. So it had to be energetically reflective or translucent or glowing. And it was disc-shaped, and it was not too high. It was sort of concave, or convex.
How big was it?
Oh, gee, let me see. It was, I'm very bad at large room, and it was easily 1/4 the size of the room it was in.
Were you able to go inside?
No, I wanted to, but the others did go inside. Yeah, they went inside. I was not permitted to do that. Not being one of the other. I was just one of the gophers, going for this, going for that. I was nobody. But they went inside. They also wanted to see the method of propulsion. They were interested to see. They wanted to see if they had any other types of control devices or communication devices, or what kind of even things they had for the journey. In other words, if they had come such a long distance, how were they able to do that, and so forth. What you and I would call food or respiratory gases, what did they use? They were very interested in identifying that.
Did it look like in...
Some of them told me, yes, and it's very much, oddly, like a lot of science fiction movies today. A lot of equipment, very trim, all along the perimeter. Things that would come up from the floor automatically, pods that would come out, things like that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the beings and...
All right, I'm going to stop it there for a minute.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
the researcher, the woman that's talking to her, is Sheila Franklin, and she was active in the states of Florida's Mutual UFO Network, and she collaborated with a guy named Stringfield, who has, I just picked up a book by him called, I have a couple things by him, called Situation Red, which is published in 1973. So she heard about this woman, interviewed her, and recorded it, but apparently it was written in, this guy Stringfield has a book, he writes, or a series of reports, status reports on UFO crash retrievals, and he gave her a pseudonym, Edith Simpson, to protect her privacy when he wrote about this earlier in the early 90s. Anyway.
So did he know, how did this come out? I mean, how did he find out about, did he just know because of his crash retrieval research about what happened here with Einstein and all this?
Well, this woman, Sheila Franklin, had heard about this woman that's Shirley Wright, had heard about this through like mutual friends, and set up an interview. And I don't know where the interview took place. And then she did the interview. She's very good with her questions. You'll hear in this one and the next one. Apparently, she does have more recordings that she hasn't been able to find.
Resurrect.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's 30 years ago, and so it's like you find something from 30 years ago. Yeah,
it's probably on a cassette, or I don't know.
Oh, it's got to be
method they use.
Cassette. It's got to be. It's got to be. Yeah, 93. No, it was cassette. Probably cassette. Cassette recorder.
But it's phenomenal. I mean, we've been messing around with this stuff for a while, and I've never heard of this before. I mean, and this isn't new either. This is just something you resurrected, right?
Yeah, this is resurrected because this guy. Leonard Stringfield, had written about this in the 90s in one of his reports. And I was able to find his status report number 1 online. The other ones, you got to buy them, and they're $70 on eBay. I'm not going to pick one up.
Yeah.
I picked up enough stuff for now. I have a 10-year supply of UFO books to go through. And most of this stuff only takes you up to the 70s. And I never heard this bepore. But we should keep going. So what do you?
Okay.
Let's keep going. Let's see what else she has to say.
Communicator empathic. What kind of information was given? Did they ask you anything, and did you ask them anything?
I'm going to stop this. They're saying that they communicated telepathically. All right.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting because I was reading and I didn't see that in the written thing.
It's not in the written thing. It's in the. It's in the interview.
It's in the comments, yeah.
It's in her interview. She just said she asked if they communicated, and Dr. Wright, Shirley Wright, who's being interviewed, said that they communicated telepathically. Okay, I'm going to start it again.
It was both ways. We asked them several questions, and they asked us several questions. Not myself individually, or me particularly, but the people I was with. They wanted to know. They wanted to know how long we lived. They wanted to know if there were some conditions that terminated what we call, quote unquote, our life. In other words, what you and I would consider diseases or stresses on our body to terminate our life. They asked, let me see if I can remember. I thought I'd never forget some of this. I don't know why my mind is so blank on some of these things. They asked a lot of the scientists what was their best system of going out into the atmosphere or going into the ocean, and how deeply we had penetrated. galaxies, things like that. And of course, they were very quick to let us know that we didn't know anything.
And
Well, that's true. We don't know anything.
No, we don't know anything. Still don't know anything.
Yeah, one of the things is that I should point out. I don't think I have a dictionary here. They mentioned galaxies, so I need to define. I'm not sure how they're defining the word galaxies, and it'll come up again. Galaxy. I mean, you have solar system, you have universe, and you have galaxy. And
Well, those are all terms we use.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they, you know what I mean? I don't.
yeah,
Unless they know what we think of as a galaxy or universe.
well, I'm also
I don't know.
thinking about in the
Yeah.
terms of for a lot of people, I think galaxy and universe. When people say galaxy, I'm not sure a lot of people understand or use the definition correctly. Because quite often when
Yeah.
I hear that word, I think people are convoluting the word galaxy with our solar system.
Yeah, solar system is our group
Yeah.
of planets.
And I need to check the definition. All right, so a galaxy is we live in a galaxy, and then
Well, we do have the solar system, and the galaxy is how.
okay, yeah, our solar system is in the galaxy, and the universe is everything else. So
Okay.
they come up here when she says galaxy. We'll talk about it when she mentions that, but I just want to make sure we have the definitions correct. Okay, here we go. So we understand what's being said.
Awesome.
Here we go.
They did not menace us or threaten us at all because they knew right away we were intellectually inferior and scientifically inferior.
then how was it that they crashed? Was there any information about that? If they have such technology, how is it that?
Something had gone wrong, and that was one of the major things that we asked them. We asked them what they ate. We asked them what kind of gases they needed. We asked them about their life support, their origin. We asked them what they used for propulsion. We asked them what their was, things like that. And we asked them what they thought went wrong. You know, and why they were, first of all, even coming here. Why did they come to visit us?
Do you remember what they said?
Obviously, they're so obviously superior. Why would they want to come to Earth?
What did they say?
Well, this one indicated, at least telepathically, like they think they don't have a sex like we do, so I can't say he or she or something. It indicated that they were exploring intergalactic space, what we would call intergalactic space. He didn't call it that. Search a better source than where they were. They were running into a problem where they are from because of some physical condition, energy-wise. And they needed to go some other place. And so we took it that they were wanting to maybe colonize some other place. And they were finding that Earth was entirely unsuitable to it. And that's why they were, because they found out that we are not at their level at all, so they had nothing to fear from us.
How little they know. I think they would have a lot to fear. But they still didn't know what happened to their propulsion system that would have brought them down?
No, they didn't exactly know. They knew that it was a malfunction or something, but they didn't know. And in fact, one being just on the verge of trying to go with a couple engineers and scientists into it in more detail when he succumbed. It succumbed, and they couldn't bring him back.
Were they only one ship, or were they just there by themselves as a scout ship, or were there any others in the Armada?
They claimed there were 8 that was a maverick that somehow lost position or something. I don't know whether it was a time warp or what, but they got out of the direction where the others were even going. And one ship he claimed crashed in Siberia in the same group. Hey. Of course, he didn't know what it was called, but we told him it's the United States.
Did he say where they were from and what star system? You said, and were they from this galaxy?
They indicated to us that they were not from our galaxy, definitely not from our galaxy. And the star system, the name was absolute gibberish to us. We didn't know what it meant.
Was that at that point in time? Do you have any knowledge whether we found that star system now?
So far as I know, we still have it unknown.
All right. I'm going to stop it there for now. Yeah, so she's saying that they came from another galaxy, from ours, which is extremely challenging. She's talking about time warps. It's another thing we're not part of. And their ship got lost, and she's referring to, I think in the Siberia thing, she's referring to the Tunguska event.
Was that? Well, wasn't that thing where it blew over all the trees? And
Yeah.
stuff?
So
I don't
yeah.
know, that seems like a meteor.
Yeah, to me, that's our comet is what I think the best thing is. That a big ice ball came in, and just the energy just blew everything up.
But Eric, you sent me an article, an audio article, a couple of weeks ago with Von Daniken that I think he discussed the Siberian UFO crash briefly.
Yeah, and I think he. There's a lot of people that in the sort of the UFO community they really grasp onto this thing as something, and it was a spectacular event. But I think it was just sort of a comet that came in and just a good sized comet came in and just impacted and blew everything up. I'm having a little trouble with her interview. I mean, she seems like a good witness, but this reminds me of that old Star Trek episode of the cage where you have the ladies with the big butt heads.
Yeah.
So they communicate telepathically and they have giant heads, and the whole thing with the modern sort of UFO alien thing is, and Joe Rogan pointed this out in one of his shows, is the aliens, they got big heads and they got shrunken bodies and they communicate telepathically. And in like the 40s and 50s science fiction, this is where they thought that human evolution was going to go, that eventually we were all going to be like these aliens with giant heads and shrunken bodies and operating on pure intellect. And I don't know if that's where human evolution is going. So there's things on this where it just seems right now it's this part of the interview is too fits in too closely with sort of the sci-fi trope from the 40s and 50s. And I don't know. I'm putting a big question mark on this. But
it's interesting because she said she wasn't able to see inside yet. She later on described something.
Well, she was
the crowd.
She's saying like the telepathic stuff. She didn't communicate telepathically with these people. That she talked to there was people there.
That did.
Yeah. So the whole story is she was interning for a summer with Einstein along with 29 other students, and she was the only woman to be in this group. And Einstein liked her, so she says, "Well, I was his pet." So that's why she was able to go on this thing. Right now, I'm sort of she's fitting into all these sort of science fiction tropes, which bothers me about the whole UFO story. And I should say there is I haven't started looking into the abduction thing, and the abduction became big in the 70s and 80s, as we've talked a little bit about before. And there's one of the abduction things, well, everybody talks about the aliens that look, the same, the big head and the shrunken body, and they communicate telepathically. But there was one where these guys up in the Panhandle I don't see the book offhand, got abducted, and the description of the aliens and the drawings of the aliens I find more acceptable because it doesn't follow the same paradigm of the giant head and the shrunken body sort of thing. And these aliens that these guys described are more alien, as what I would expect, especially from an alien species that's evolved on another planet. Anyway, let's keep going. All right.
And how many people were around when you were there, or were there government people? Were there other scientists?
Government people, there were military people, there were scientists, there were lower echelon people. There were many individuals about both men and women, many people.
How did you get from where you were with the scientists you were with to that point of where the ship
and military vehicles to the site?
Were you interrogated at all before they allowed you to see this?
No, because I was just sort of in the background, and I was just, I had no positive, even fifth or sixth line interest in it or anything. I was just to be assisting the scientist that I was with and part of his entourage, so to speak. And that's why I was there, and I was just permitted to be there.
How did you feel when you saw this and saw what was taking place?
Well, I was quite overwhelmed and awed. I real or fantasy, I wondered whether there was somebody playing a terrible untruth on us. It's just that the people, there was such activity and behavior and interest on the part of people, I knew it was something serious.
Okay, that's it for part one. So
right.
It sounds like it was Russian midgets to me.
Well, it's interesting because she said in the article, it says that she doesn't have a security clearance. And when they asked her, she said she did. And then I don't know if this is on part two, probably.
Yeah, I think it is.
And she says that she did have a security clearance, but she didn't know what kind. So, I mean, which isn't untypical. I mean, you got a clearance. I mean, you don't really I'm sure under the circumstances, I don't know, just give me enough clearance to get inside to see the thing.
Well, if she was working for Einstein for a summer as an intern, and Einstein obviously worked on classified stuff, all the interns would have had to been vetted and probably granted some level of clearance just in case they saw something in his office or talked to him in a conversation. So, I mean, it might have just been due diligence on the part of the internship program. What's interesting is she says that there's 29 other interns. I mean, but all these people, this is 75 years ago. The thing that's frustrating with this stuff is like all these people are dead. So you have this real interesting thing. It's like this should have been followed up in 1993 when people were alive. You could have talked to the other interns. Anyway, so yeah, we're in the position now where things have gotten interesting with UFOs or UAPs, but everybody's dead that was heavily involved in it. So I think I have the second one ready to go, and this one's shorter. I'm going to start it up. You ready? Here we go.
Go.
All right, it's running. Anytime now.
But otherwise, you'd think you were almost in part of some science fiction portrayal. I mean, some set or something.
Did you have a security classification at that point in time, or they just let you in without any kind of...
We all had the security clearance.
Was that immediately before you went there, or had you had one when you were working with the scientists?
I had one when I was working with Einstein. And that security clearance was respected. The only reason we could go.
Is that security, or did they deactivate it after?
Oh, it was immediately deactivated.
In the other experiences you've had, the other work you've done, did you ever have any other kinds of security clearances?
I've never had a necessity since to have a security clearance. No. I had a paper accepted by the government on the ultimate structure of matter and National Academy of Science, but I have had no security clearance.
Do you remember what they called that clearance that you had? Did they name it for you?
I don't even recall that except I'd have to look that up. I don't know whether I even have a note on that.
The program that you're working on with Einstein, was it funded by the government or was it a university grant?
Grant to him at that university at that time to have outstanding students from around the country picked to work with him that particular summer in nuclear chemistry.
Did you have a title that was given to you while you worked there?
Special student.
Did he take any other students with him?
No, I was the only student.
Lucky you. Come on.
I was his pet, I have to admit that. I was. I have to admit that. There were 29 and summer.
Were you there when,
The only girl either.
when the last alien died? Were you there at that point in time?
No, I wasn't. I was back at the motel in a city nearby, and I had been told, and I would be able to keep the being alive.
How many were there originally?
9. I saw 9. 8 bodies, and then later we communicated with that one, so there were 9.
And can you describe they were?
Oh, I sure can. I remember that very well. They were a very light, soft, gray, I'd call it grayish green, really. And they had a slim, lean, they had no nose, but they had markings where a nose opening would be. They had eyes and a mouth, no eyebrows. They had ears. They had a very forehead, and I'd say relative to the rest of their body. And the ones that I saw were approximately maybe 5 feet tall, 5 feet 5, something like that. They're small by what a man entered on Earth.
What did their eyes look like?
Their eyes were enormous. They were very prominent. They were the most obvious thing you'd see on their face.
Were there any pupils?
I noticed, but I never saw any pupils.
What color were they?
They were almost brown-black. They were very, very dark.
Were they all the same color in terms of the...
Oh, yes.
Did they have any kind of clothing on?
Yes, they had suits on.
What did they look like?
Very much toward like what we call suits. The only thing was, though, that I didn't recognize the fabric. It didn't look like any fabric that I would know as a chemist, or even today that I would recognize.
Were there any kind of fastener?
Buttons or zippers or ties or something? No, I didn't see any.
What about their shoes?
Their shoes were all, looked like they were connected. They were in one piece.
Hey, I got to say this interviewer is awesome with her questions.
Yeah, she's very good.
She's apparently still alive. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy corresponded with her to get this information and get the recordings. So we will probably hear more, hopefully, as this guy researches this some more. We got about 3 more minutes of the interview. I'll start it again.
Okay.
And their hands, their limbs were covered, right down to what we would call the wrist.
What color was it, and was it any kind of trim?
You mean the suit itself? Oh, it had like an insignia on it.
What did the insignia look like?
Gee, I'd have to draw it for you. It looked like a...
Yeah.
I'm not an artist, but it looked like something like this. I didn't know what it meant.
The insignia.
The insignia was almost in the middle of the garment. It wasn't off on the side like we would expect it to be.
Did they need any special breathing apparatuses, or did they appear to be breathing on their own?
And that was one of the amazing things that we were startled about, where they could apparently survive in our atmosphere, and they had apparently come such a long way.
Did they seem to indicate that the atmosphere is similar to ours, their breathing?
They asked us about that, and we asked them about it. Yes, they seemed to indicate yes, that it was quite similar. It was not identical to ours, though, because they claimed they had made tests.
Did they tell you anything about of their lifestyle was there?
We tried to find that out, and before we could, they really, we were very interested in not antagonizing them at all, so to the point where we had them answer too many of ours. We never really found that out. We just knew that they don't live all above ground, according to what they told us. A lot of theirs, what we would call subterranean.
Did they seem repelled by our appearance since they look so different?
Oh, they thought we were very odd.
Since you indicated that they were either androgynous or had no sex, did they mention how they procreated?
That was another thing which we asked them about, and we couldn't pin down either, but no, they indicated that they had this like we have at all.
Did they tell you how they reproduced? Did they refuse, or they just, nobody probed them?
No, it's real that.
So they really were kind of limited in what they felt was appropriate to tell you?
I would say so, yes. I would say they were very careful what they revealed.
Did it seem like they wanted to have any kind of continual contact with this planet?
Very definitely, yes. However, they had already almost discounted this as a desirable place to come.
All right, that's it. So I hope they find the rest of the recordings. That's actually real interesting.
It is interesting, and that she's of the age that she is. Was she in her 80s already? I mean, she passed when she was about 85, I know.
She died in 2015, and she was 85, so she was 63?
That's still pretty lucid.
75, 65. She was 63, so she's... she wasn't gone mentally. I'm looking at this, and I'm sort of having the Lazar Paradox with her.
Yeah.
Although she is, as far as her background is solid, a lot of this stuff could be verified through, and apparently the guy is trying to verify through Einstein's records and stuff, if he can.
Yeah, he had to go to the Jewish, whatever the...
Well, there's different sites he went to. There's, I think, Cornell. Where'd he go? Yeah, he contacted. I mean, there's a bunch of archives for Einstein. So, here it is.
The Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Einstein Papers Project at Caltech.
Yeah.
But they didn't get any. They didn't really get they didn't get a response related to the visit.
Yeah, a lot of these things, I think, have a feeling that the archivists for these things are going to be pretty arrogant to begin with, because it's Einstein. And they're, a UFO question. Oh, my God. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Einstein didn't seem to be too concerned about UFOs as a phenomenon.
Yeah.
He's a scientist. He just, what's the propulsion? Where do they come from?
Yep.
For us, it's like, holy crap! What are they doing here? Yeah, I want to know about the propulsion. I want to know where they came from. But why are they here? What's the game plan? What do they?
Well,
You know?
she said that, and this is part of her story that I don't like, and I think we missed it when we were listening to it. She did mention, last time I listened to it, she did mention that they left their planet because of some sort of crisis or something, or energy crisis or something like that. So I don't know. If the information she got, everything she's getting, this lady was getting secondhand from people firsthand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like the I call it the Lazar Paradox now. You have a really good witness, obviously a very smart person that's telling an extraordinary story. The difference between her and Lazar is that her background is obviously pretty impeccable. It could easily be verified that she was an intern. She has 2 PhDs. She taught at Miami-Dade Community College for decades, for over 50 years. She ran her family's hotel in Miami Beach, in the Tropicana Hotel. So she seems like a very sort of, upstanding citizen. And the question is like, why would somebody make up a story like this? So I have trouble with her saying that they come from another galaxy. I think that's a stretch. The time warp thing, I think she just threw that out. The psychic communication, I don't know about psychic communication. This all sort of fits the science fiction trope from the 40s and 50s with the space alien with a big head, or the future humans with the big head communicating psychically and stuff like that. So other than that...
I always think about the large black eyes. It's kind of like fish that are at the bottom of the ocean where there's no light. They have gigantic eyes because they need all that to be able to see anything.
Well, she's saying...
It's kind of like you're born in space. If you're space travelers, space traveling entities, you might evolve into something over the million years, whatever, that, your eyes to start one way, then, there's very little light in space.
Well, yeah. But it's also,
I don't know.
If you're a space traveling entity, why do you need legs? To stand on? You could just have another set of hands at the bottom of your feet. And so you have, if they're highly advanced, it's easy to modify biological organisms, including, intelligent organisms. So it doesn't, why not modify your feet so they could actually be hands? So which might even be more handy in a spaceship. So there's a lot of things. We'll see as we progress through this over the next 10 or 20 years. The thing that bothers me about the space alien things is and I didn't think about this until Joe Rogan pointed it out. The whole giant head, shrunken body. That's a trope from the 40s and 50s, and that's something that everybody thought, the science fiction sort of pulp science fiction thing. This is what future humans were going to be, and so now we're seeing space aliens as this and future humans. Other than that,
well, it really wasn't. As we talked tons of times before, Roswell's kind of like ground zero, like the Bible. Yeah, that's where it started. Yeah. It's really where all this started. As I read, we're back into Ruppelt's book, but they're talking about dirigibles in the 1940s or 50s, and not the 1850s. Yeah, and over San Francisco Bay Area.
Well, that was and those sightings, I was thinking, is because at the time people described them as dirigibles, as sausage-shaped and stuff.
Yeah, they're probably balloons.
I was thinking, you have to be able to relate objects to objects to actually describe them. So if you look at a cup, we know what a cup looks like. So you can look at a lot of different things and say, oh, that's like a cup, even if it's not a cup. And I think from the stuff in the 1800s, when people were seeing these, like in the San Francisco area, And they were seeing things that they were calling dirigibles because those were finally being had entered the technological space, and people were reading about airships. So if you saw something that looked like a flying saucer, you would say it looked like a dirigible, because that's the closest thing you could come to describe it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about some of these early sightings, like they're saying they look like dirigibles. They might have been, if you look at a flying saucer from the side or a rocket ship or anything like that, you would say, oh, that's a dirigible, because that's the concept that you can deal with. That's
the point of reference.
Yeah, point of reference, yeah. So
yeah, the dirigibles were invented in 1952, and then, I think when we're talking about a lot of the sightings.
You mean 1852?
1850.
Yeah.
1852.
Yeah.
I mean, the sightings are,
So
a lot of the UFO sightings, I think, are just people don't even know. Because people, we didn't have the print, the internet, and all that. People have seen these things that have never.
Well, you got to remember, we're all sort of information animals, which is why everybody's on their iPhones or their phones all the time, or on their computers. Yeah. I mean, as we all are now.
That's right. The information age.
Well, and before that, when we were growing up, there was television. So we're we're part of the TV generation. So we were always, every night you'd go and you turn on the TV, and that's an information device. And television, newspapers, magazines. And you go back farther, and then it was radio. And then the newspapers, you go back even farther, and newspapers would publish a morning and an afternoon edition. So you'd get up in the morning, you'd have a newspaper to read at breakfast, and when you got at home at night, you'd have a newspaper to read in the evening. And there was lots of magazines. And the thing that blew me away is there's like mail delivery in these old cities, 100 years ago. Mail delivery was like 3 times a day or more. So there was so much. I mean, now we just get it electronically. Before, it was just tons of paper. So people got tons of letters, people got tons of books and magazines and pulp, cheap things to read. And so the information, people were not, we have a tendency to think that people are more primitive in the past. It's just, I think the mode of communication was more primitive than what we're seeing now. So people knew about dirigibles, and they knew about, that was their frame of reference. What's that?
Did you ever have, growing up, I mean, I've had this, but I can't remember who it was. People that their parents didn't let the kids watch television.
Yeah, I don't know any parents that were really successful with it, and I think a lot of the kids that we knew would there were some, they would talk about it. And it never passed the smell test. I think I think that was sort of a social signaling, like we see a lot these days, where the kids were saying, "Yeah, my parents don't let me watch TV," and
well, they'd be running around like they were smarter than us.
Well, there was a.
What did they?
I think we were in class together, and this was at grade school, and the teacher said, "Don't watch television. Try and not watch television for a week."
Yeah,
and
do that. I missed a Star Trek episode. I'm screwed. I don't want to do it.
I think one person she asked, I think it went on for like one day or something like that. She asked the class, and there was like one girl raised her hand. And this was when our standard class sizes when we were in grade school was 30 students.
Yeah.
So one girl out of 30 raised her hand and said she didn't watch TV the night before, and everyone else, I mean, because we were young enough where we were very honest. The kids,
we told the truth.
We told the truth, yeah.
Like now.
Yeah.
No, and now the first thing they go to is a lie.
Yeah.
What do they want to hear?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
But back then, there was like one girl in our class raised her hand and said, "I did not watch TV last night." And I actively tried to do that for probably, to me, it seems, my memory says it was probably 10 minutes. It was probably more like 15 seconds. So, or less, 10 seconds. But yeah, I couldn't do it. Back then I couldn't do it. Could not not watch television. So
it's just on. I mean, when I grew up, the TV was just on. I had a single, my dad was earlier, my dad.
Well, I was in a house. Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 other people, and there was 3 other people in my house, and it was like, no, the TV was on too. It's like, there's no way I can't I'm not going to go sit in a bedroom and I would, it just doesn't happen. Not with a kid. I think it was around 10 or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, people were knowledgeable about dirigibles, and I think that in the older sightings, that's what they say. So this, coming back to this lady, I know. What do you think?
When I heard this the first time, and that's when I sent you that note, and I said, "This is crazy. How come I haven't heard it?" Like I said before, I haven't heard of this. She sounds lucid. What motivation would she have to lie?
Yeah.
I suppose she's in her 60s. I guess you could, but people back then, they don't. She wasn't being paid. She didn't want notoriety.
Yeah.
What would her motivation be to lie about this?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't.
And her first, when they wrote it up first in that guy's books, in the Leonard Stringfield status reports in the 1990s, they used a synonym for her. They used Edith Simpson as her name to protect her name and family privacy.
Yeah.
So
I was so excited when I saw this. I went, "Holy crap! I can't believe." And then kind of like Lazar. Well, that's the same reaction I had when I first discovered Lazar and listened. Made everybody listen to the Lazar Joe Rogan interview and said, "This dude." There's no way this dude's lying. There's no way. And then as time went on,
I still give Lazar. There is elements of his story that are remarkable, and there's elements of his stories that hold together, and there's aspects of his life and elements of his stories that stink.
Yeah.
And this lady, she's a lot more credible witness than Bob Lazar, and I'm calling this the Lazar Paradox, because she's very credible. Parts of her story seem to make a lot of sense. Other parts of her stories, to me, it's like science fiction trope, science fiction. So that she said galaxy. I don't believe that we would see beings from another galaxy, but I'm thinking she might be. A lot of people do this. They'll use the word galaxy to refer to solar system.
Yeah. Well, she's educated. I mean, she's obviously very educated.
Well, I'm educated.
But we still use the term. Yeah, I agree with you. We still use the term for the generality of the galaxy and the universe.
Yeah.
People don't use it in the right context.
They don't use the definitions, which is why I wanted to get to those definitions. So I'm thinking if she was using the term galaxy and that's referring to solar system, all right, that would increase her credibility. The telepathic communication, I don't know. There's also the possibility that there's the misinformation that if this did happen, they could have fed her the other stuff like the telepathic communication and all this other things as a disinformation feed. So if she did talk, she's going to look like a nutbag.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility with the information that she has, because a lot of her information is secondhand. So the primary information that he has, and one of the things that impressed me when she says how many beings did she see, she said 9, and the way that she said that was very definite.
Yeah.
So that impressed me, and she said one was alive. So her eyewitness accounts, I would say, are very credible. Her second-hand reporting, which may be elements of disinformation, and we'll talk about that with when we get into the Roberts report next week, and I'm hopefully we'll be able to do that justice.
Well, it ties in with other, stories of the one alien. In fact, they named him something because he was still alive.
Oh, that survived. Yeah.
So it is. I mean, unless they delved into that and they figured that out themselves. I mean, it's kind of an odd coincidence that it ties into the original. Remember, he was alive for a while, and they actually named him and all that.
Well, I liked her story because everything else, except for the other stuff that she heard secondhand, her eyewitness descriptions are awesome. She says she saw a ship. She can give the size. She wasn't able to get close to it. She saw bodies. She got a good look at the bodies. She saw one that was alive but in great pain.
Yeah.
So outside of the secondhand information that she may have been fed as disinformation, her story is great.
She's a good eyewitness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she may have been, and like you said, she was told, she didn't get to see all this stuff firsthand. She was just told by, like you said, secondhand from other people.
and that's part of the thing is if you want to ensure someone's it's also you provide false information to someone if they decide to leak or talk about stuff. It's standard counterintelligence. You give people false information, and you give them specific stuff, and either to make them look bad, so you can discover the leak, or whatever. So there are strong elements, and we'll see in the Roberts report. And the Roberts report was a CIA-initiated investigation analysis of the UFO phenomenon. That a core component of the Roberts report was the disinformation campaign. So I would actually say that it's possible that the weird, what I would call the weird information that she's repeating that she got as secondhand information is just disinformation to make her look, to discredit her if she decided to talk about what she saw. But like I said, this is the Lazar Paradox. You have you got a very credible witness, but then you have elements that make you question what's going on. So, whatever. I think this is excellent. This is an awesome that these recordings that have come out and the name of the real person has come out. Otherwise, it's a obscure description in a hard-to-get book from 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Is this the one that's $70, or is this another?
Yeah. You can find the first one online, first status report, and it's little monographs. They're just reports, so it's not a very thick book. But people are selling it for $70. I'm not going to pick one up. I don't need to look at it. I got enough stuff to go review at this point.
Yeah.
So just keep working. And also the big-headed alien with the shrunken body. All that stuff could just be misinformation. And then it gets adopted by the hoaxsters and the fraudsters because that's what people want to hear. So, grain of salt. Other than that, her first-hand descriptions are outstanding. Her second-hand stuff, I think, is questionable and maybe misinformation or disinformation specifically fed to her. My 4 bits.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we got to let's talk about a few more things if you want. I got. We can talk for a few minutes. I also have the another recording from that site, which is Frank Edwards on Einstein and Truman. Do you want to listen to that? Let's cue that up.
Let's do it.
Let me get that going, and that's a 2-minute recording.
Okay.
Let me get it. Let's get this up. Yeah, this is Frank Edwards. As an introduction, used to have a TV show. Oh, I could cue these all up. I don't know how to use anything. Had a radio show that was famous. Wrote a bunch of books. He wrote a book called UFOs Are Serious Business, and this is Frank Edwards doing 2 minutes from one of his broadcasts. All right, starting now.
Well, actually, what this booklet does, it discusses a great many of these sightings around Washington, D.C., particularly those of mid-July 1952, when about a dozen of the things came over. About a dozen of them came over one night. They were tracked by radar. They were seen visually. They followed the planes in, and according to the CAA's own booklet, the pilots got good looks at the things as they followed them in and out of the airport. Some of them hovered, some of them went around the Capitol building, some went over the monument and the White House, and over the deep freeze, and circled all around there. They were seen plainly. There was no question about them being there. And as a matter of fact, the officials were so concerned about it that on the following morning they issued a shoot 'em down order. Why didn't they shoot them down the first night? They didn't shoot them down because the jets couldn't catch them, and they've never been able to catch one yet. The jets couldn't catch them. The next night they showed up, the jets didn't go up after them. They didn't go up with their shoot 'em down order for the simple reason that Albert Einstein and others of comparable standing heard about the shoot 'em down order because the story was on the front pages all over the world. They heard about this shoot 'em down order, and they personally got in touch with the little man in the White House, and I know what Mr. Einstein told him. He said, Mr. President, anyone who can cross millions of miles of space will be able to take care of himself after he gets there. Don't start something you can't finish. That was one time that Give 'em Hell Harry decided it would be better not to give him any hell.
All right. Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, he's right.
Yeah.
They're not going to come all the way here and not be able to protect themselves. I don't, maybe, well, we all assume they have weapons to, like, laser beams and ray guns and crap. Whatever energy weapon. But maybe this is something that's like, that's something we would do. We'd arm, like aliens, where they sent the space Marines out, and they got this ship with all this gun crap sticking all out of it. Maybe they just don't care about killing and mayhem, and it's obviously for traveling through. Maybe they don't run across a lot of races that want to hurt them. It's like nobody wants to hurt us. Well, we don't need anything to do this.
Well, I saw there was something I was looking at, and they said that there was there have been shootouts with people getting in shootouts with flying saucers and losing.
Well, yeah.
So I saw. I saw a reference. I haven't found anything on that. That was just like a reference in another book.
Yeah, I have. As we go through this, it was a very. I've heard of it too, but not in that. Like the man. What was it? Which one was it? Was the P-51 or going up and?
Oh yeah.
You think he either crashed into there was. Crashed into it, or
the very first description in Ruppelt's book is a fighter jet or a fighter airplane shooting at a UFO and the guy getting in trouble. That's what he starts his book off with.
Yeah, and that's it. And the debris field. We talked about this several episodes ago, but the debris, that wasn't a plane that crashed whole.
Yeah.
That thing was in pieces before it hit the ground.
Yeah.
If it had ran into
this is Mantell. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever happened, maybe he simply ran into the thing. And who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's I guess that's it for today.
Well, that's really, and I really appreciate you bringing that, because I was shocked when I saw that. I don't know, maybe it's not as big as I think.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Cool. All right.
Well, all right. Let's wrap it up.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome your comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at alienprobe.net, Twitter at alienprobepod. Thank you. Oh, also, we should mention YouTube. Thanks for about 45,000 listens, and got a lot of subscribers. Thank you out there. And thanks to our senior producer, Robert Anthony, and also Dr. Bill, who manages to thread this thing together for distribution. I appreciate it. And thanks for bringing everything together. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There. Okay. All right. Are you there?
Awesome. I'm here, yeah.
Did it explode?
Yeah. I lasted, I think, 50 minutes almost.
Oh, your computer's getting
almost
better.
Almost made it the whole time.